I'm about to be a real buzzkill for Gen Z. If you were born between the ages of 1997 and 2012, which I believe, Abby, correct? Jackson?
Correct.
Rebecca?
No.
Okay.
I'm a 94 baby.
Are you close?
I thought that I was the oldest, like, cutoff for Gen Z, like between Gen Z and millennial.
Okay.
I always call myself a zillennial.
Yeah, you're like a millennial sun, Gen Z rising.
I'm really hip.
So many houses, so many rising. All right, so if you think it is tough right now for Gen Zers as far as getting jobs and the economy, it very well could get worse for you guys here over the next couple of years. And I'm not exactly sure who's to blame. So let's chew on this. A new survey came out, and a significant portion of employers now say that they'd rather hire AI than a Gen Z graduate into their company.
That's crazy.
37% of employees say they'd rather hire AI than a recent graduate. Jackson, I saw you just kind of like look like, yeah, it makes sense.
I think that's totally valid.
Why?
I mean, when you think about the costs that go into training employees, getting them hiring competent employees, making sure that nobody's lying on resumes, going through that entire process takes a ton of time, a ton of resources, a ton of money. And so for you to just get rid of that entire process and have something that's basically just guaranteed to do the menial work that you think that you need to do, then it kind of makes sense.
That point will come up later because people are sort of complaining like, who's really to blame here? Is it budget cuts or is it Gen Z and their personalities? Okay. Because it says 68% of small business owners say Gen Zers were the least reliable of their employees. 71% said these younger workers were the most likely to have a workplace mental health issue, so they wouldn't hire them.
I feel like they said that about millennials when millennials were our age too. So I feel like it's less of a generation specific thing and more of a bias from boomers against the youngins who are just trying to figure it out.
I think that the one thing that is generationally specific, though, is that Gen Zs do a lot more job hopping than anyone else. That's like a very common thing that people do is you join one company, you stay there for a year or two just to get it on your resume, and then you use that leverage for salary and what you did in your experience there to move on to another place. And you just keep jumping from place to place, getting paid more and more and more. And it's becoming less and less worth it for companies to invest in their employees when they know that they're just going to jump ship in a couple of years.
That used to look poorly on you on a resume if you were jumping around that much. An employer would go, they're only going to be here 6 months, but I guess it doesn't have as much weight anymore.
Yeah, because it used to be being a lifer was like a very common thing for people from like my parents' generation, where you started at a company once you graduated college and you stayed there for your entire life, 40, 50 years at the same company. And that just does not happen anymore.
Well, it's because those companies stopped paying lifers. So that was the perk with being a lifer, is you got raises and promotions, and that stopped happening. So the new strategy is, if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth, I'm going to go to the next company that will.
I think, honestly, Gen Z already uses AI so much in school, in college, that it's like, why not just cut out the middleman, go straight to AI?
Here's the problem, too, and I think I told you guys this. A couple of times now, me and my 17-year-old son have sat down and we're taking a look at his future, and he's trying to choose a major and a career. And I said to him, because he rattled off like 4 or 5 different careers. And I'm like, son, I got to be honest with you. If we look 10 years into the future, 5 years into the future, those jobs like marketing, for instance, why would you have somebody in there running analysis for you when AI is doing everything? So I told him, do 2 things. Study AI and study business.
If you think ChatGPT can write a tweet better than me, you're absolutely right.
Facts. AI is not funnier than Rebecca.
Study interviewed 1,600 employers and full-time employers, and 96% of employers said most college educations aren't preparing people for their jobs. Altogether, 89% said they avoid hiring recent grads.
I totally get that. I mean, it's one of those things where they only want people who have experience in the field, but how are people in college going to get the experience in the first place?
Right.
And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. And it's really interesting to see that now, instead of college educations being sort of the most important thing that job employers are looking for, things like going to a trade school, people like electricians, plumbers, HVAC, that's going to be way more of important of a hard skill, because that's one thing that actually can't be replaced by AI.
Yeah, I've been watching Landman lately, and I'm like, none of those guys right there are going to be replaced by AI. You need real hands on it. Now, in a separate survey that came out this morning, which is really interesting also, this one came out from Gallup, and it said the youngest generation of adult workers, Gen Z, already feel burned out. Only 31% say they felt engaged at work last year. So it goes both ways.
I wonder if it's just the hustle culture that we were raised with, because I know specifically my parents were really tough on me. And I look back at the superhuman that I was from 14 to 18, and I don't understand how I did. Like, I was working 18 hours, like from sunrise to sunset. I was doing something that I think you get to a point where you do that and you realize, oh, I did all of that for just for this? That's all that there is for life. And you just start to question, like, wow, my parents really put priorities in the wrong bucket.
The Bert Show.